A powerful magnitude 7.4 earthquake has struck western Colombia, leaving communities across the country facing a devastating second day of rescue operations. The earthquake hit at around 7:34 in the morning on August 10 local time, with its epicenter near San José del Palmar in the department of Chocó. The earthquake occurred at an estimated depth of roughly 100 kilometers beneath the surface. Despite its depth, the shaking was felt across a huge area, from western Colombia to Bogotá and even in parts of Ecuador and Panama. Colombia's Geological Service has described the earthquake as one of the strongest recorded in the country in recent years, and possibly the strongest earthquake recorded in Colombia this century. But the scale of the disaster is becoming clearer only gradually. As rescue teams continue searching through collapsed buildings and remote communities, casualty figures remain preliminary and are still changing. As of August 11, at least 132 people have been confirmed dead, according to the Colombian Association of Capital Cities, known as ASOCapitales. Some local reports and unofficial compilations have put the number considerably higher, but authorities are still working to verify those figures. Hundreds of people have also been injured. At least 570 injuries have been reported nationally, while local authorities in some of the hardest hit areas have reported much higher numbers.
Ay, mira la catedral, mira, se cayó el santo, se cayó, se cayó. Terremoto, se cayó el santo de la catedral.
Hospitals in several cities were placed on red alert, and in some locations patients had to be treated outside because medical facilities themselves were damaged or overwhelmed. Among the hardest hit areas are Cali, Pereira, Manizales, Quibdó, and communities across the Chocó region. In Cali, multiple buildings collapsed or suffered serious structural damage. One hospital was forced to move patients from pediatric and neonatal areas outdoors after sections of the facility were affected.
Se nos habla de muchas personas atrapadas en este edificio, era de 4 pisos y se vino abajo. Está temblando fuerte.
In Pereira, more than 60 structures have reportedly collapsed in the metropolitan area. The city's airport suffered damage, while its aerial cable car system was temporarily disrupted. One of the more dramatic rescue operations involved 16 people who became trapped inside the cable car system for approximately 6 hours. Rescue teams eventually brought them to safety. In Manizales, structural damage was reported at historic buildings, including the cathedral, while other collapses were recorded throughout the surrounding coffee-growing region.
Pero esto es un terremoto el hijo de puta.
Hizo la lotería del Risaralda, mami. Dios mío bendito.
And in Chocó, where many communities are difficult to reach even under normal circumstances, the destruction has been especially severe. Some indigenous communities reported widespread destruction of traditional homes made from timber and other lightweight materials. In the remote Wunan Indigenous Reserve of Buena Vista, community leader Victor Chamapuro said homes had been flattened and residents were sleeping outside. At least one injury was reported, while residents urgently requested food, medicine, and other basic supplies. The challenge for rescuers is not only the scale of the destruction, it is also the geography. Parts of Chocó are covered by dense jungle and have limited road access. Some communities can only be reached by boat or aircraft, making it difficult for emergency crews to assess the damage and deliver supplies. Meanwhile, rescue teams in larger cities have been working through the night. Soldiers, firefighters, police officers, professional search and rescue specialists, volunteers and family members have been digging through rubble using heavy machinery, basic tools, and sometimes their bare hands. Human chains have formed around collapsed buildings, with people passing debris from one person to another. At times, rescuers have stopped completely and listened for signs of life beneath the rubble, and in several cases those efforts have paid off. People have been pulled alive from collapsed structures after hours of digging. In one reported rescue, responders heard whistling and eventually managed to locate a trapped man and a baby. But the emotional reality of the rescue effort has also been heartbreaking. Some volunteers described hearing scratching or voices beneath the rubble, only for the sounds to disappear.
Dios amado, acaba de temblar en Cali de la cosa más horrible de este mundo. Mire cómo se ve la ciudad. Mire.
Parido,
Families have gathered near collapsed buildings, waiting for news of relatives who may still be trapped. More than 2,700 people were reportedly listed as missing by families through citizen-run websites by Monday night. However, authorities have emphasized that these figures do not necessarily represent confirmed missing person cases, and the number is expected to change as officials verify reports. The earthquake itself was terrifying for survivors. Some people said the shaking lasted close to 2 minutes, although the experience felt much longer. In Quibdó and other western communities, frightened residents ran from their homes, sometimes without clothes, while others jumped from upper floors in panic. A resident of a high-rise building in Medellin described his bed moving violently across the room, comparing the experience to a scene from a horror movie. Even buildings designed to withstand earthquakes were shaken intensely. Older structures without modern seismic protections appear to have suffered particularly badly in some locations. In Cali and Pereira, ordinary residents quickly became part of the rescue effort. Families and volunteers dug through rubble with buckets in their hands, desperate to find survivors before it was too late. For many, the streets took on an almost unreal appearance. Power outages left parts of cities in darkness, while damaged buildings, emergency vehicles, frightened residents and debris filled the streets. One survivor described the atmosphere as feeling like the end of the world. The government has declared a national emergency and mobilised the military, emergency responders and other resources. President Abelardo de la Espriella, who had taken office only days earlier, has made finding trapped survivors a central priority. Authorities have also imposed curfews in cities including Cali and Pereira as they work to maintain security and manage the emergency response. 5 capital cities were placed under red alert at various points. Airports in several locations temporarily suspended operations, while engineers inspected runways, terminals and other infrastructure. Schools, roads, health centres, public buildings and other essential infrastructure have also been affected. The earthquake was followed by dozens of aftershocks, with at least 33 reported. The strongest so far has been around magnitude 5. International assistance has also begun arriving. The United States has committed approximately $15.5 million for shelter, food, protection and damage assessments. European authorities have offered satellite and other support, while several Latin American countries and international organisations have indicated that teams or assistance are available. Public life has also been disrupted. Football matches and major public events have been postponed in affected areas, including a major festival in Cali. But amid the destruction, stories of courage continue to emerge. Neighbours are helping neighbours. Strangers are searching through rubble together. Emergency workers are continuing despite exhaustion. And families are refusing to leave until they know what happened to the people they love. For Colombia, the second day of this disaster is becoming a race against time. Rescue teams are still reaching remote communities. More buildings are being inspected. More survivors may still be found. But authorities also warn that the death toll and missing person figures could rise as inaccessible areas are reached and damaged structures are cleared. For now, the priority remains simple. Find those who are still alive. Care for the injured, provide shelter to those who have lost their homes, and reach communities that remain isolated. The full scale of the earthquake will take days and perhaps much longer to understand. But behind every number is a person, a family, and a community trying to recover from a disaster that changed their lives in just a few minutes. As rescue operations continue across Colombia, the country is facing one of its most difficult emergencies in years. And for thousands of families, the search for answers continues tonight.